many people set a time, say, 9:30 a.m. or 10 a.m. when they are going to begin doing something that they want to do or know they should do. That's a little bit challenging. Could be exercise, could be cognitively demanding work. And then 10 o'clock rolls around and they say, okay, 10:15. And they're distracted by often social media, texting. These days, I think those are the main culprits, really. I don't know too many people that get distracted by exercise and reading books. Some do, and doing complex puzzles or math. But social media is a little bit like mental chewing gum, except that I would add to that it's the kind of chewing gum that really does sate the appetite in a way that prevents you from eating nutritious food, unless used correctly, right? And then people feel bad about themselves because the whole morning went by. Now it's noon, then they require some food like any typical person.
Right.
And they eat, then they might need a little nap for the postprandial dip in energy. Right. And then the afternoon, and then it goes on and on. I mean, I hear this all the time. I've experienced this before, so I'm not immune to this myself. That's why I try and capture that early wave of energy, whatever it might be, adrenaline, noradrenaline, some combination. The way you describe thinking and its potential relationship to generative drive, it seems to me it's so important that we capture those moments of potential creation, however small the action might be, to remind ourselves that we are capable of moving things from point A to point B. Because in the description I just gave of the person that lets the morning escape, there's really no external barrier except these distractions. Put differently, all the tools exist within most all of us to be able to create what we want to create, or at least to create something.
Right.
I mean, and yet many, many people just don't fulfill that right that they were and that we've all been given.
Right. So let's think about what's going on there. Right? So the person says, I'm going to exercise at 10 o'clock. Right. Now they push it back to 10:15 and they do something on social media, or they push it back to 10:30. It'll be okay. I'll get it all in. What they're doing is they're engaging in is unhealthy defense mechanisms, right? So if we go back to the pillars, right, the structure of self, the function of self, there may be other reasons for it, but let's just identify the unhealthy defenses of avoidance and rationalization, right? And then there's no thinking going on about that, right? They're just unconscious processes, and you kick it down, you kick it down the clock 15 minutes, right? They're not thinking about it. Thinking then is subserving something different, right? The thinking is subserving the avoidance. If I'm going to go look on something, read a couple of things, reply, I'm thinking, I'm planning, right? maybe I got to get the phone out. I got to tap, my code into it. I got to go to a certain website. Like, we're doing something that we're thinking about it. I think about what I'm going to write back. But the thinking is all in the service of the unhealthy defenses, right? So then by understanding ourselves better, we can bring that right to a healthier place. How? By actually using thinking for what helps us, right? So let's think of what's going, let's say if you're doing that, okay, what's going on when you're doing that, right? So do you really want to exercise, right? But it's not easy to exercise. And sometimes it might be just problem solving. Are you doing a thing you like? Maybe something you like more, there's lower barrier, et cetera. But let's say we're just working within the psychological, right? Then you can come at that a couple of ways. Like, I don't want to do that thing. That thing's hard, right? I mean, I think that about things in my life sometimes, and it always makes me weighty and unhappy, right? I may as well put 20-pound weights on either side of me, right? I mean, I can look at it that way, right? Or there's a different way of looking at it that actually fits much better, which is I'm not daunted by doing difficult things, and I can get out there and apply myself, and and I feel good about that when I do difficult things. It's part of my identity, right? It's part of how I see myself. So, right, I'm going to go do this thing, and I'm going to feel good about it. And isn't it amazing that I get to do it, right? Look, here I am. I'm alive. I'm healthy, right? I can go do this thing. My health is good, but I want to make it better, right? By working out, or I'm at least alive. And if I lose a little bit of weight, I'll feel healthier. Come on, this is good, right? And then I'll feel different about that, right? And truth is one or the other. It's both can be true. Now, what will be true is what you choose, right? And if you choose the negative, then yes, the unhealthy defense is perpetuated. And even if you get yourself to do it today, it's harder to do it tomorrow. That's why sometimes I'll say to a person, like, just take a look at it and decide if you want to do it or not. If you don't want to exercise, just decide you don't, right? And then, okay, there's a trade-off for everything. Maybe you're okay with the trade-off, right? But what am I trying to do there, right? Is bring to consciousness that that person is making a choice, right? Do you want to do it? If you want to do it, it's great to just do it, right? And if you don't, it's great to not do it. Then at least you're being honest and clear with yourself, and you're not wasting all that time when you keep kicking it 15 minutes down the clock, until it's too late. Does that make sense? That's, I think, how the structure here really does. It works because it's pulling together what we know from the biology to the psychology of like how to understand ourselves and how to understand when things aren't the way we want them to be, so that we can make them the way we want them to be. It's not magic. It's following the sort of mathematical aspects of, going to the factors, assessing them, making changes, and then, of course, we see the outcome we want to see.
The way you describe it does make sense. And I appreciate it, because I think ultimately it seems to ratchet back to actions, to verbs, to bring us to these feeling states that, I think are what people are seeking. Peace, contentment, delight, through agency, gratitude as active terms.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
I think these are universal desires. And again, you're providing this wonderful roadmap for people to arrive there.